Thank you, Chairman Rush, for holding today's important meeting. It comes at a time when we need to be thinking seriously about how to ensure our economy is not thrown into disarray every time a tyrant lies to the world. It is also a time for us to start to understand that we are in a situation because we haven't rushed forward and diversified enough in our energy portfolio. We haven't taken advantage of the sun and the wind and the other aspects that a diversified portfolio would allow us to have. And talking about diversified portfolios, I want to point out a couple of things here. It's interesting to me that there's already 9,000 permits that are already approved, and half of them for oil and gas, and half of them oil and gas pipelines are going unused. Additionally, offshore, the fossil fuel industry has over 26 million acres of public land under lease, of which 53% is being used to produce oil and gas. The rest is not. Offshore, onshore that was. Offshore, there are 2,078 active leases that companies covering 11 million acres could use, and nearly 75% of those are not producing oil or gas. I would just ask the companies why they're not doing that if they're so concerned about making sure we keep the price of oil down for the American public. On liquefied natural gas, I would like to bring up the following. There are three new LNG projects ongoing right now. Two in Louisiana, one in Corpus Christi, Texas, that would increase export capacity by about a third by mid-decade. Plants already under construction should lift peak U.S. capacity to 13.9 billion cubic feet per day by the end of this year. Estimates from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. That is a figure surpassing Qatar and Australia, who are now the two largest LNG exporters in the world. New LNG liquefaction trains in Louisiana, both of them, are due to be in service prior to the end of the year. They were permitted in October of last year. That will bring our LNG terminals a combined 261 billion cubic acre feet per year. I was trying to wonder why we hadn't heard too much about LNG or pipelines when it comes to that, because 50% of our pipelines in America are unused today. So it makes me just wonder, we should have a more thorough discussion, and I agree that earlier discussion that we need a national plan now rather than later is important. I would like to point out that Arizona's 1st Congressional District is a great example of what needs to be replicated across this country. Lucid Motors, an electronic vehicle startup, established the first factory in North America built from the ground up for electric vehicles. The factory employs 1,200 in Casa Grande, Arizona, and plans to employ 6,000 by 2030, and has an economic impact of $81 billion on the broader community. The transition to green energy is a huge opportunity for economic revitalization, good-paying American jobs, and also to build a future where America is independent and secure. We don't have to depend on the tyrants of the world. We don't have to depend on other countries. The energy market is a global market. The pricing mechanism is a global pricing mechanism. To diversify your portfolio away from the costly elements is a good idea, not a bad idea. And that is why we're seeing so much of what Mr. Schrader had commented on about why the demand is going up across our nation and why the car companies across the nation and the world are moving in that direction, away from carbon and towards the sun and the wind and the other elements that will bring about tremendous amount of jobs within our country. And we are going to be able to do that because we have started to invest in it. And we talked a lot today about the grid. The grid is something that is meaningful. And before I get lost here, I want to commend Ford, commitment on clean energy and impact. Could you, Mr. Hollycross, identify, for example, using aluminum on certain components to make vehicles lighter increases battery range? Could you comment on how that will help us?
Absolutely. I mean, reducing the weight of vehicles, whether they're electric vehicles or internal combustion engine vehicles, helps the efficiency of the products and use less energy. Look, we've gone to fully aluminum intensive bodies on our full pickup line, our F-150s, our Super Duty F-Series, full-size SUVs, taking more than 700 pounds of weight, increasing the efficiency, reducing the operating costs for customers. And so as we look at electric vehicles and the opportunities there, greater use of aluminum, other lightweight materials is absolutely integral to our strategy. But again, as we talk about the need to secure the supply chain, not only for the raw materials that are needed for batteries, but for the broader components of the vehicles, it's also an imperative on us as well to make sure we secure that supply.
And I have to yield, and before I do, I just want to point out that we would love to ship more to Europe. They don't have the capacity to take it, and I yield.